Hey YouTube, it's Master, and with Evo Fury coming up in just about a week now, I want to put out there that I am going to be doing as much as I can with that set. It looks really interesting, and I'm going to be making a lot of decks, and with the more options we have for cards, the more I can do. The thing with my situation right now is I don't really have a place to play. I don't have many ways to get you guys videos of me facing someone else. And I'm not as into making news videos because the news is there. You guys can just check the wiki, you can check Facebook pages, you can check anything. I don't feel like it's necessary to bring you guys news unless for some reason I had a preview card that I was given or something. In which case, I'm not going to just keep it to myself. Obviously, it's meant to be shared. That's the only time I would ever really need to give you guys a news update. Um, the thing I really want to do is listen to what you guys want to see, because until I can get some more games recorded that I play, because I don't get to play them too many times, I have to basically make decks, and that's one thing I enjoy doing in this game, is making all of the decks that I can think of and having fun. I've got a book of all my deck ideas, and I update them when I need to, change them around, think about them. It's one of the things I do to keep myself entertained by this game, seeing as I don't get to play it with other people all that often. And the other thing is, I'm trying to keep a set of every single card throughout the entire game as it goes along. I'm currently missing two, one Water Spout Gargoyle and one Bestial Rage Tatsurian, and I'm working on that. Should hopefully have those by the time Evo Fury comes out. Fingers crossed. But the big thing I wanted to say is I need your input. I want to hear from the community, like what you guys want to see me do with my given situation. Can't put out too many duel videos, can't do too many news videos just because I don't feel that they're worth your time. The news is out there, and it's one click away. You don't need to watch a 5 or 10 minute video of me ranting about it. I can, however, provide my opinion on certain things as news drops, and other things, but that's something I want to know from you guys if you want to see that first, so I can start doing that next set if you guys want to hear about that. So one thing I was thinking I could do, that I already posted something alluding to in the Kaijudo Dojo on Facebook, is I want to start doing requests, like, for decks, because I build decks enough and have made a number of decks that do well, like well enough, that I feel that I'm fairly good at it at this point. I don't want to sound stuck up about it, but I do this a lot. I've got a lot of practice, and I feel like I'm getting good at making decks in this game, and balancing them, and thinking of creative ways to do it, and themes that pull the entire deck together, and make the deck work in ways that other people hadn't thought of yet. I feel like I've done it enough that I'm starting to do that, not to mention the way I have my stuff organized. You see these white sleeves with my cards in them, right? I've literally got, except for the two cards I previously mentioned, 3 of every single card in the same exact kind of sleeve, so that I can just mess around with whatever I want. And I'm going to be doing that for Evo Fury as well. I'm going to have everything and be working with everything, so if you send me a request, I can do it. So what I'm thinking about that is you guys send me parameters for a deck. Like, say you're working with a lack of cards. You don't have the key cards and don't have the ability to get them, like, that make a deck function. Like, you want to run with a Cyberlord deck, for example, that maybe has 0 to 1 hovercraft Glurgles, and you don't have access to Hokiras or Water Spouts, but you still want to make a deck that focuses on Cyberlords. I could help you do that, do the best I can, or whatever, and I could post a video of it. I'd take these requests in comments, but mostly messages on YouTube. and whatever you want to say. You could even say, include this card. I know it's not the best, but I want to make a deck that uses it, and I kind of want the deck to be centered around being able to play it. Say, King Nautilus. I made a King Nautilus deck once. I liked King Nautilus, but I knew he wasn't the best for what you get from him. But I made a deck where I made you choose between killing King Nautilus at the end of the game when he's actually, good, or killing another key card on my field. And typically people would have to choose the key card because of the situation they're in. And that allowed me to actually get King Nautilus to survive long enough to do something, even if it was just attack once and give me 2 cards, and maybe kill a shield or a blocker. I don't know, but it allowed me to do it. That's the kind of thing that some people just don't have the patience to work with a deck like that, but they still want to do it. They just don't have the patience to figure it out. Or some people really want to do it, they're really loyal to the card, but they need a little bit of help building the deck. That's what I want to be able to help. And, that's one of the big things I can think of. If you guys have any suggestions on what I could do, as I've already explained my situation, you could leave a comment in this video, and I would really appreciate that. And the last thing I want to get to is something I mentioned in my Cyberlord deck video, which I just did right now, but you guys should see it first. Is that I like forcing people into a choice where they have 2 or 3 choices, and none of them are good. They're really looking at a losing situation for them, and that's kind of like how I like playing. I don't like going with one strategy. I like going with 2 things that aren't going to both die. You have the choice to kill one. If you can even kill either of them, I'm not saying you can't kill both, but it's not likely that you will. So your choice is, do I kill one or do I kill the other? Or, do I prevent one or do I prevent the other? But you can rarely stop both. And if you do, it's going to come at a cost to you. Say you waste your entire turn on it, I'm still at an advantage. That's one of the things I was talking about Carl Reddish or Thunder Sultan with. When I was facing him with my Cyberlord deck, which is right here, it's doing really well, he kept finding himself in situations where he'd have multiple cards on my field that he just couldn't deal with all of them, but if he couldn't deal with all of them, then he couldn't win. He knew that. We got to points in the game where he just literally gave up because he could not win. I'm not saying he quit or anything. He just scooped the games because he recognized that there was no way to win. It would be pointless to continue on. I had my amazing field setups on him that I talked about in the Cyberlord deck video, where they're just so unstoppable. You're facing down maybe 8 different creatures, and you can barely deal with them. And on top of that, I'm keeping your field minimized with my stuff that removes your creatures from your field. So you're basically 0 on 8, and it's not going well for you at that point. To give you an example of choices like that, I'm putting this out there so that you guys, when you make your own decks, you can keep this kind of idea in mind. One of my examples here would be, I have 2 Hovercraft Glurgles. Obviously a Barrage could deal with that, but I've got maybe even just 1 Finbar, which means you can kill the Finbar, or you can kill one of these guys. Obviously you would choose the Finbar. And if you have enough to kill Finbar and then Barrage, go ahead, but that pretty much guarantees you don't play anything else that turn, which still leaves you at a disadvantage. But on top of that, oftentimes I have 2 Finbar, which makes it even harder to get around. And I know this is going overboard, but you can see your choice is really, do I want to get rid of one of the Hovercrafts, or both of them, or do I want to try to kill both Finbars? And you're staring down Hokira at the same time, along with 3 blockers that I can replay if you attack into them and kill them. Obviously, Crimson Wyvern's out there. It exists, I know that, but I'm not too afraid of it because it doesn't often see play, and when it does, it's not that big a deal for me to lose my blockers because you just wasted the majority of your turn playing a Crimson Wyvern, and I'm going to be controlling your field otherwise to the point where you're not actually in an advantage by the time you play it. So yeah, that's just something I had to throw out there. But you've got 5 of those cards right there that you have to deal with, and you can't. That was kind of an extreme example. Another example would be like, I have a hovercraft and 2 blockers, say, just throw it out there, and a Finbar, and you've got a level 3 or lower, or a level 4 or lower kill spell, so you can kill one of these 2. Your choice really is, do I want the rest of his Cyberlords during this game to have an advantage when they come in? So when he starts dropping Milporo, they're at 4,000. When he spams a few Aqua Seneschals, do I want them at 4,000? Or do I want to kill this so that he stops having blockers? Either way, you have to kill this, and you'll get past my blockers that way, but you're not really at much of an advantage because then my attack power kills you. And if you kill this, my defensive power stays around because of him, and then I rebuild my attack power. You can kind of see where I'm getting at, is that I try to make it so that you're forced into losing, is basically an easy way to put it. You have ways around it, but they're incredibly costly, and they're incredibly hard or rare to come across, and that's kind of the way I like to build my decks, is so that I'm not focused on just one aspect of the game. I'm focused on countering as many things as possible. That's why I put so many of these cards in here, is just to have the ability to abuse them. Like, it's not a secret that Hokira is easily killable. I mean, 3,000 isn't the biggest power. Obviously, it gets better if I have Finbar or 2 or 3 Finbars, but it's still not the greatest power. You can get where I'm going. But when your choice is to kill him or to kill Hovercraft, which do you do? Obviously, there aren't really many spells that are going to kill both of them at once, unless you have Morta the Vengeful or something, which, once again, we're getting into weird cases, which I can't always cover everything. I do my best. Which do you do? Either way, it's not good for you, because really good comeback power, really good hand advantage, or really good field advantage. It's hard to do. Now, obviously, you could spend, I think the minimum you could spend to kill both of those is, I want to say 8, but I'm probably wrong. I know you could remove one temporarily, so I guess you could say 6 would be the minimum you could spend, but that would be in Water Fire, and that's only if you have both of those cards, and even then, it's still a decent cost just for me to replay Hovercraft the next turn. So there are advantages you could get on me, but I think in the long run, the way I'm trying to play this game makes it so that you're going to have a tough time. And the final thing I wanted to get to about this is the way you have to think. From what I've told you guys about the way I make my decks and the way that you're going to play against me, is that you're forced into bad situations, but there are exceptions to getting out of them, which is where knowledge of the matchup comes in. Say you're playing a Fire Nature deck. I know, okay, he's got no blockers. There's the big thing. I don't have to play as if I'm going to have to get past blockers. I just have to be conservative enough to keep my creatures around. And you have to know Barrage is available to you. You could potentially be using Rock Bite. You have Tornado Flames. You have Speed Attackers, which are a big thing. And you just have to play around that. Make decisions based on the matchup. As I mentioned, Morna the Vengeful could get around both of those at the same time. Make decisions based on that. It's really just the way you have to play this game is make a deck that has answers to every single thing you could think of, but it's not going to inherently win the game for you, obviously. You have to make those decisions as to what to play and what not to play in that game itself. I feel like this is kind of something that's common knowledge, but I have to be saying this in context of my deck building strategy and my game playing strategy. I know it's hard for me to explain it. I'm sure if you asked Carl Reddish or Thunder Sultan, who I'll try to remember to link in the description. Couldn't find my camera lens. Yeah, I'm sure if you asked him, he would say the same thing about the way I've been playing him the last few times. My scenario before of in Fire Nature Dragons, if you want to kill Hyperspeed, or do you want to kill the Great Arena? Either way, Hyperspeed Dragon's going to allow my dragons to come in and just blow you away. And if you kill Hyperspeed, then the Great Arena is going to just let me continue to stay at hand advantage in a deck that runs out of cards pretty quick. You can see where your choices are limited, because by the time I'm making you make these choices, you don't have enough to beat all of them at once. You have to choose one or the other. And even if you do have a way around it, the big thing is, well, if you have a way around both, rather, in the late game, the big thing is you waste your turn doing it, and presumably I've controlled the game enough to that point where you killing my options, wasting a turn, lets me reset my advantage before you can get past it. Like there's no way that you're going to Skull Shatter, Tornado Flame, Barrage, and Storm Spark Blast and swarm me with 3 speed attackers in one turn. It's just not ever going to happen. But it's just, you have to think of all of the possibilities that are available to the opponent, which is where literally knowing every card inside out really helps. Even the underplayed cards, which is why I like the way I have my collection set up so much. It helps me know the game. And knowing the game is a big thing. So I recommend to you guys that don't have as big a card resource as I do to at least memorize all of the cards on the wiki. Just memorize them. Like, know what they do. You don't have to know their names or anything, but know its civilization and its cost, as well as what the effect is, so that you can analyze the situation, see their mana pool, see the number of cards in their hand, and see their field setup along with their shields, and you know what's in your hand, the number of cards on your field, and number of shield triggers, or shields you have, rather, not shield triggers. But, you know, we all have 5 shield triggers in our shields, right? But yeah, just know the situation, and think based off of the situation you're in. What I'm trying to get at is control every factor you can control, and let card games be card games. You can't control everything, but the really good players are going to be the ones that control everything within their power. I'm not claiming, sorry, I'm not claiming to be a very, very good Kaijudo player, but I think that I'm pretty good at it at this point. I know there are people who are better than me, but I feel like I know enough about it to be in a situation where I can kind of say this stuff to you guys, like, listen, here it is, this is what you want to be doing. If you guys have individual questions, go ahead and ask me, like, what about this situation, what about that situation? I mean, that's kind of trivial. You'll get a sense for it over time. But if you have, like, any particular question to ask me, feel free to ask. I like communicating with people on YouTube from the Kaijudo community, or any community really, and it's really nice to have that opportunity. So if you guys have watched this whole almost 20-minute video now, I really appreciate it. I hope that it was worth your time and that you learned something from it. I was having a hard time putting some of these things into words because they're just kind of things that I've picked up over time and just do while I play. But if I had to leave you guys with any words about advice, it would be control what you can control. So, thanks for watching, guys, and make sure to check out Thunder Sultan, Carl Reddish. Really cool guy, helps me out a lot, and it's always nice to talk with him. So, thanks for watching, guys. Have a nice day.